Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to this very important meeting today, Tuesday, March 6th, of the City of Portsmouth to the City Council Chambers of the Planning Commission. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, we will now have roll call. Please indicate your presence electronically. 6 members of the Planning Commission are present. Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, before you are the minutes of the January 16th, 2018 public hearing. If there aren't any changes, additions, or omissions, we are in need of a motion. Commissioner Thompson.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
Commissioner Hoffler.
I second that.
Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second, and you will be voting electronically. The minutes are approved by a vote of 6-0. Announcements of future meetings and conferences. Please note that our next scheduled work session is Tuesday, April the 3rd, 2018 at 12:30 p.m., 6th floor conference room, followed by public hearing at 1:30 p.m., City Council Chamber. Items reviewed today will be presented to City Council for action at their April the 10th or April the 24th, 2018 public hearing, or as otherwise noted. Planning Commission rules limit a speaker up to 5 minutes to speak. We also ask that everyone please silence your cell phones at this time if you have not already done so. Our first item is Z1703, Churchland. Robert C. Barkley IV, Esquire, on behalf of Twin Pines LLC, requests a rezoning on a conditionally zoned property at 3993 Twin Pines Road to allow for the construction of a Dollar General store. The property is zoned conditional, high-density, urban residential. The proposed zoning for the property is conditional general mixed use, GMUK. The property is further described as tax map 846, parcel 2.8. The comprehensive plan recommends multifamily residential development for the property. The applicant has requested a deferral of this application. However, will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Good afternoon, Chairman Williams, members of the Commission. My name is Robert Barclay, and my business address is 200 High Street, Suite 500, Portsmouth, Virginia 23704. And actually, I'm here today just to request a deferral on this item. I think we probably have maybe going the wrong direction here, but probably in the work session you got to review the application and the staff presentation. I just wanted to give you a quick rundown on the history of the property and how we get to the deferral request today. In January of 2006, the owner of the property had the property rezoned from commercial to condominiums, multifamily condominiums. And at the time, if you may recall, in the middle of the last decade, residential development and condominiums in particular were a very popular development item. There was a great deal of demand for those. So that was what the rezoning at that time was done, from commercial to residential was in light of that. And then, of course, the Great Recession happened and the demand for condominiums collapsed, and the owner hasn't had any other interest in anybody approach them about any sort of residential development since that time. In 2015, a Dollar General store developer came to the owner and entered into a contract to buy the property contingent upon it being rezoned for that purpose. And so an application was submitted at that time. That company that was is called Par 5 Development. They're out of Pinehurst, North Carolina. and they are the preferred developer for Dollar General stores in Virginia and North Carolina. They contacted me several months ago to involve me in attempting to rezone the property again. At that time, they freely admitted to me that they did not do the homework they should have done on this site. They did not make the appropriate contacts with civic leagues and with other community leaders regarding this. And as a result, at the City Council public hearing that occurred several years ago, there was a great deal of opposition from the Long Point Civic League. And so when they involved me, I told them one of the things they'd have to do is they would have to reach out extensively to that civic league to find out if there was some way that the neighborhood could support this project. So in that light, we had a meeting with them in January of this year, in which representatives from Par 5 came. And Par 5 also engaged Hoggard Ure, which is a local engineering firm, to redesign the proposal of the store to try to make it fit better with a more residential setting. As a consequence, I think there's been a complete redesign. The building's been reoriented so that the front still faces Twin Pines Road, but it's the narrow side of the building that faces Twin Pines. The long side is at the parking lot. In addition to that, it's a new store design, which is a more residential concept. It has hardy plank and brick exterior siding and has a more residential feel to it. At the Civic League meeting, we went over all those sort of things, had a fair amount of give and take. In addition to discussing the redesign, the message we got from the board of Long Point was that they would like a portion of the property dedicated to some sort of public use. In particular, there are members of the board that are very involved with the Portsmouth Community Gardens project. And so they asked that if we could consider setting aside a part of the property for a community garden. Par 5 looked over it and said they could do that. And they're prepared to have the property subdivided and set aside the northern portion of the property for a community garden. The next step is finding an entity to convey that to for that purpose. The Civic League is not incorporated, so they may not be appropriate. So we requested, or I started doing research, and I found out that the Community Garden Project is affiliated with Virginia Extension Service and with Virginia Tech. I reached out to the Virginia Tech Foundation, and they are interested in taking title to the property for purposes of a community garden. But they're in their process of going through their evaluations of it and to give us a definite answer. So what we're asking is that this matter be deferred for a month to allow us more time to work with the Virginia Tech Foundation, which is a substantial organization that could take title to the property for a community garden. And our understanding is that the Long Point Civic League could be supportive of the project if it had that. And so we're sort of caught between what the Civic League wants, and I believe the staff is recommending denial because they don't like the community garden issue, among other things. So we're sort of in a dilemma, but we'd like more time to at least find out if Virginia Tech would take the property. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Barkley? Commissioner Youngblood.
Yes, sir. I note that there was a Bottom Dollar store at the adjacent property, and it's vacant now. Had Dollar General considered buying or leasing that spot?
Okay, in the adjacent shopping center, there is currently a Dollar General store. That lease expires within the next year or so, and it's Dollar General's intent to vacate that space. They are for several reasons. One is their general business model now is to try to move to freestanding stores and away from inline stores in strip shopping centers. And some of the bad experiences they've had at that store are part of the reason for that overall change. In an inline center, they're a tenant. They do not control what goes on in the rest of the center. In particular, they can't control loitering in the parking lot and all kinds of issues like that. And so they're in general moving away from that kind of model, and they plan to close that store. However, their business model also shows that's a very viable service center and service area, and they feel like they would have a strong customer base at that location. In particular, probably a stronger customer base, because in addition to getting control over security, it would also give them more control of the product offering. When you're in a inline center, the landlord will have a reciprocal agreement, lease agreement, that prohibits you to sell certain products in that center. If you may recall, that center originally was anchored by a Food Lion store. And so there are restrictions in the lease and in the reciprocal easement agreement that govern the center that restrict Dollar General's ability to sell grocery items in that store. And what they found is grocery items have become a much larger portion of their product mix. And so another major reason they like to move to a freestanding store is to get out from under that prohibition so they could offer a lot more grocery items in this store. And with the Food Lion gone, that grocery item option went away for this corridor. So this would be a way to restore that convenience grocery type product service. And again, in their stores, when they offer groceries, they have a lot of frozen foods, milk, fresh milk, coffee, a lot of things you could, people would want when they're on the way home or something to pick up. And so that would give them the opportunity to offer a lot more of that. But the bottom line is they're leaving that center. They don't like it there. One of the things we heard from the folks in Long Point was there were issues with the center, such as loitering, perhaps some nefarious activity, that sort of thing. Dollar General's got the same issues. That's why they want to get out of that center. That's why they're leaving that center. With their freestanding store, they control security. They have cameras all around. They can, they can call the police. Right now, the landlord controls what happens in the parking lot. At a new store like this, Dollar General would control who has access to the parking lot, what goes on there, all those sort of things. So, I mean, they're, if they don't get this site, the store just goes dark. They're just going to leave the area. I mean, they're not going to be in that market.
Commissioners, any additional questions for Mr. Barkley? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-17-03. I do have 2 registered speakers. As I call your name, would you come forward? You will have up to 5 minutes to speak. Our first speaker is Dion Irving.
Madam Secretary, thank you for having me. The board, it's my first time doing this, but I'm just going to get right into it because I only have 5 minutes. I oppose the Dollar General moving to that location. Like Mr. Barkley said, they have a presence in the shopping center. What wasn't said was they have a new landlord in said shopping center, which is a church. So that was just done recently. So security should change. With the deferment, you'd also get extra time to see what that church will do with said security. And they're very proactive in cleaning that lot that they just acquired, that the Dollar General is in. So they shouldn't have any issues with any food because the church is not going to be selling groceries. So since they already have a presence in the neighborhood, that lot should be zoned as is until something better can go there. They have a presence. That lot has been cleaned up. A church moved in there. They already took the steps to clean up the lot. They repaved the lot. So I'm kind of nervous. I just suppose it. They have a presence in the community. That's not beneficial to the community. Using that limited resource of land in that community, we have kids that if it was rezoned for something that helps out the children that in the summertime walk up and down the street and have nowhere to go. There's no community centers in this area of the city. They have to go across the bridge, and it's a lot of low-income families in Peachtree right there in the Gold area. They don't have the resources to send their kids anywhere else for after school other than the schools, and that's a limited space. So there's no summer camps, no after school, no daycare. That lot is a valuable resource to the community that can be used for our children. Portsmouth is for people. I heard a song, and not corporations. So if we're going to use that lot, we should use it for our kids not for Dollar General. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Any questions for Mr. Irvin? Commissioner Youngblood, Mr. Irvin?
Mr. Irving, just a quick clarification. You say that that shopping center has a new owner?
That shopping center does have a new owner, sir, Mr. Youngblood, yes.
Okay,
It's a church just acquired it, and they have their grand opening soon. So there was no presence there. It was an empty lot. It was acquired. They just remodeled the area. If we can get some people out, if you could take that picture and zone it, you'll see that there's new pavement. They repainted everything. And
but
the lot,
that answers my question, that this is a new landlord for that entire property?
yes, so the
Okay.
food issue shouldn't be in the next lease if Dollar General wanted to get a new lease.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Any additional questions for Mr. Irvin? Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Robbie Jones.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman. My name is Robbie Jones, and I own the shopping center at 3985 Twin Pines Road. I am the CEO, Chairman of Parkway Holdings, LLC. I am also the senior pastor of Parkway Christian Center. We call it Parkway Portsmouth, that just purchased the shopping center a little over about 18 months ago. Had our first grand opening Saturday night, and quite a turnout, and I think that we have started making quite an impression of what we desire to do in our community. We feel like it's a part. I appreciate the two former speakers that have come before me. I'll try to be very quick, as I know I only have 5 minutes. We saw the shopping center, and it was it was a decapitated shopping center. I mean, it was really run down, wasn't a whole lot going on. I have a few pictures I could show you where it was boarded up. And we went in, and we repaved the parking lot. We have painted, we've remodeled, and yes, we have put a church in where the bottom dollar food line was. We've spent a lot of money, a lot of time, worked with the city, cleaning up, trying to get orders. You can talk with Chief Chapman, Assistant Chief Green. They will tell you that we are very proactive in making sure that that shopping center is inviting to the community, because that's what we want it to be. We believe Dollar General is in a good location. I hear that, I heard today that, and I heard previously that Dollar General would relocate. I can tell you I have been in communication with management of that Dollar General. I do not believe that is the case. Since we have taken over the shopping center, Dollar General, and talking with Mr. Lee, who is the manager of that Dollar General, because I'm very proactive with our tenants. I said, tell me, how are things going? What can we do? They just recently had an air conditioner go out, HVAC. We spent thousands and thousands of dollars of putting a new HVAC system on their facility, over their space. He told me, he said they've never had an owner take such quick action in probably less than 5 days. We had diagnosed the problem, put a new unit up, and he had heat back in his facility in very, very cold days. So we've been very, very proactive in trying to do that. We don't see there's an advantage of Dollar General moving. I will say this, Dollar General, Mr. Lee has told me, since we have kind of revitalized the parking lot and the shopping center, Mr. Lee has shared with me that the Dollar General has seen increase. I said, well, how are you doing? He said, we are now the number 3 selling Dollar General in the entire region in that shopping center. Saw him probably 2 weeks ago. I said, well, tell me, you're still number 3? He said, no. He said, we have moved to number 2. And so the location of the shopping center is not an issue. I have a map that I could show the board today. We have proposed to Dollar General, if they would like to relocate, to stay in the shopping center. The thing that concerns the community, and I've met with Long Point, the citizens, they're not in favor of Dollar General moving. They do not see a great advantage of this. We have proposed to Dollar General to take an out parcel. We have
You have
space.
1 minute, Mr.
Okay.
Jones.
We have space in the existing shopping center that we could do an out parcel, and we have talked to Dollar General. We think that that would be a better option. Because the last thing the community wants to see is to see a vacant shopping center. There's nothing that screams louder to a community that you're dying is if you drive by property and it is empty. And so that is one thing. The last thing I will say is I have approached the owner of this property. Personally, I've not had the time because we've been opening the church, but we would like to maybe propose a rec center in that area. I think I can do that, but I need time. I have a map I can show you from Portsmouth rec centers that there's nothing in that area for the kids. There's nothing. I would like to try to do something that would benefit the whole community. I know I'm running out of time, and so maybe I'll take some questions and ask.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Jones? Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
So I don't think you ever stated, are you opposed to the deferment?
I am. I'm sorry if that didn't come across. I am opposed to deferment because I do believe that it's not beneficial to the community to really, for them just taking and basically they're just going maybe 100 yards to the other, another lot, vacant lot, leaving the current property, really, I think, in dismay. I think it really just sends maybe the wrong message of what's really trying to happen in that community. We're trying to revitalize, and we think another business or possibly even a rec center would be so beneficial. Again, if you look at the rec departments, there's nothing on that side of 164. There is nothing in that community. and
Mr.
I can tell
Jones,
you.
I
Yes.
appreciate your comments, but
All
we're
right.
not into recreation right now.
I understand. Yes, sir. You're absolutely right.
Any additional questions for Mr. Jones? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-17-03. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address for the record, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none. Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing will remain open until the next scheduled Planning Commission meeting, which is April the 3rd, 2018.
No. We have a couple of choices here. One, there's a request for a deferral.
That is correct.
Now, is there a motion for deferral of this rezoning? Okay, there being no motion, then the referral dies, is defeated. Is that correct? There is no motion, so the deferral is defeated because there is no motion.
That is correct.
So then the next item on this project would be to approve or disapprove Z-17-03.
And if you were going in that direction, moving forward, you would need to close the public hearing.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this public hearing is now closed. We need a motion.
Commissioners, the chair is now in need of a motion on Z-17-03. Commissioner Youngblood?
I make a motion that we deny the request for Z 1703.
The chair is in need of a second. Commissioner Thompson?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to deny Z 17-03. We will be voting electronically. This motion is approved to deny Z 17-03 by 6-0. Our next item is Z-18-01, Portsmouth Acres. Robert C. Barkley IV, Esquire, on behalf of WP2 LLC, requests a proffered rezoning of 303 Bedford Court. The property is currently zoned General Residential GR. The proposed zoning is Conditional Light Industrial, ILK. The property is further described as Tax Map 570, Partial 11. The comprehensive plan designates the property as part of a mixed-use corridor. Staff has requested deferral of this application until the April the 3rd, 2018 Planning Commission meeting. Will the applicant or representative for this application come forward and present your application at this time?
I don't have any comments. I mean, the staff's requesting deferral.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
No comments? Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item Z-18-01. I have no registered speakers. If there's anyone here who would like to address this application, you may come forward at this time, state your name and your address, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing will remain open until the next scheduled Planning Commission meeting, which is April the 3rd, 2018. Right.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, we would, excuse me, we would need an action from the Planning Commission to grant the deferral.
Right, we're in the process of doing that now. Commissioners, the recommendation is for deferral on Z-18-01. Commissioner Thompson?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the request for deferral on this item.
Is there a second?
And I second.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to defer this item Z-18-01. You will be voting electronically. This item is approved 6-0 to defer to the April the 3rd, 2018 meeting. Our last item, UP-18-02, Maryview. CE Forehand, on behalf of T-Mobile Communications, is requesting a use permit to erect a 160-foot monopole telecommunications tower and equipment compound off Glasgow Street, just east of Maryview Hospital, between Whispering Oaks Apartments and High Street. The property is owned by Brad Barker, is zoned urban residential high, and is identified 0 Halifax Avenue and tax map number 353, parcel number 1.1. Will the applicant or representative for this application please come forward and present your application at this time?
Basically side to side, that's the pointer, is the red one. Okay. There you go. There you go.
All right. Afternoon, Commissioners. CE Forehand, 219 Sarla Road, Norfolk, Virginia is my address. I'm here in support and as the applicant for T-Mobile in order to provide coverage in the location here off of High Street near the Maryview Hospital. Really, the only reason we're here today is because Possibly, you received a letter in your package that we received from Bon Secours last December that we were to vacate our existing site on the hospital. I'll try to see if that's in this package, but basically, this is the location between Glasgow and Queen Street, and we're applying to build a new tower exactly the same height as the existing tower that's on top of the hospital. Basically, we have, we've been given 12 months to take our equipment off of the hospital, and that's really the only reason why we're applying for a new site in this location. The location that we have found over here is far away from any existing residential, or it's a commercial zone. There's minimal other uses that we could that could support construction in this site, so we feel like it's a good location to put a cell tower. And I actually worked with Bon Secours on the original lease, and that lease actually took me over a year and a half to execute. So probably less than 2 years later, they've asked us to leave. So it was a big letdown for us to have to leave that location. But evidently, the new CEO of the hospital wants all of the antennas off of the hospital. And so therefore, this tower will support T-Mobile's equipment, but it'll also be open to any other carriers that want to put their antennas on the tower. So we see it as a solution to a problem for not just T-Mobile, but for additional carriers that may want to attach to the tower also. So that's basically the reason why I'm here, and I'll answer any questions that the commission may have today.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Youngblood?
Yes, sir. I've looked at that location, and right now, it's right much of a jungle. It's overgrown with all sorts of folks using it as a dumping ground. It must have backed up a couple dump truck loads of dirt or trash on the site.
Yes, sir.
I take it that if this were approved, you would take responsibility for cleaning up that site. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It is, and I was at I heard some questions that I think you had at the preliminary meeting, and it is a leasehold. We do have a lease on that property, but in the future, there may be there may be a sale, there may be a purchase of the property. So the property owner in the future may be interested in selling it over. So we will clean up the property and clear off some of the trees. There are some existing large trees that we'll try to save if possible. And but obviously, the site has to be mostly cleared and it'll be fenced. So there'll be limited access for people to come and dump and do things of this nature on the site.
Well, right now, it's a tremendous eyesore, so
Yes, sir.
I personally think that anything you do could only be an improvement. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for Mr. Forehand? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP-18-02. I have no registered speakers. If there's anyone here who did not get an opportunity to register and would like to address this application, you may come forward, state your name and your address, and you will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. Appearing to be none, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, this public hearing is now closed.
Commissioners, the chair is now in need of a motion for UP 18-02. Commissioner Thompson?
I would like to make a motion that we recommend approval of UP-18-02.
Commissioner Thaxton?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second for UP 18-02. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a motion and a second to approve UP-18-02. You will be voting electronically.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. As far as that motion is concerned, can we add the conditions as well?
Commissioner Thompson?
I would like to revise my motion that we recommend approval of UP-1802 with conditions.
Commissioner Youngblood?
We have a motion and a second to approve with conditions UP-18-02. You will be voting electronically. This item is approved 6-0 with conditions. Yes, we have a presentation, please. We have a presentation.
I know. But there's humor in the job sometimes. We do have a presentation that we need to present to a young man who has served as the chairman of the Planning Commission for many years, has also served as a councilman on the city council, and is currently the city treasurer. I'm glad he's not the assessor, because I got my assessment bill and mine went up, so I'm glad he collects the money and doesn't send the bill. Mr. Page Chair, if you will join me at the It's always a pleasure and an honor to meet talk to such a distinguished person. The City of Portsmouth in appreciation for your 7 years of dedicated service as the liaison to the planning department. This plaque is presented to Paige D. Cherry, March 6, 2018. Thank you for all your help.
They're all good sides.
Say a few words.
Sure. I just want to thank you. The Planning Commission has always had a special place in my heart. It's probably because of the Planning Commission that I'm standing here as your treasurer today and council president of the city manager. In 1993, there was a history in my neighborhood that I came before this very commission, make 6 presentations to this commission and to the city council in my neighborhood. As a matter of fact, it's not far from where you are now, Pastor. It's Will Breeze, right behind your subdivision. So I was almost going to speak, but I thought it might be inappropriate against approving that Dollar General. But this body makes it very important. The city council depends on your expertise and recommendations to make a wise decision, because you are the citizen representation of us. They're political, but you get to put yourselves in the seat of the citizen and look at it from their perspective. That's what you should always try to do. Not the staff position, not the city council position, the citizen position, to make sure that they're getting their best service as best as they can. So thank you so much, and I'm only downstairs, so I still may pop in. Because I started coming to planning commission meetings in the 1990s, as Mr. Baldwin can tell you. You and I keep circling back around this thing. and so, out of force of habit, I may just pop in if it's okay, Mr. Chairman.
We'd love to have you.
So thank you all so very much. This is very much appreciated. As a matter of fact, I'm going to find a place on my wall in my new office, so if y'all come visit me. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Secretary, I believe that concludes our agenda for today. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Commissioners, is there any further business we need to discuss today? Mr. Baldwin, anything further?
No, sir.
There being none, hearing none, the meeting is now adjourned.